make up the rules as we go. But again, thank you so much for sharing your introductions with us. Everyone who is watching, I want this to be a time where you learn the things that you want to learn about the program and the experience here. So I will open this up for questions for you to ask our panelists to learn more about their experience. So feel free to type in any questions that you have in the chat or the Q&A feature so we can walk through them. But to kick us off, I do want to just kind of have each of you talk about the panel here today. The goal is really to talk about kind of the unique experiences of women in the Executive MBA program. So is there anything that you would like to share about what it's been like, what it was like, or is like, I guess, for Sarah Church, being in the program as a woman and being able to share kind of your story and connections there?
Sure, I'm happy to start. I would say that going into this program, I've worked kind of in, as we all probably have, in male-dominated industries throughout my career, and I was kind of prepared to go into this program with a bunch of guys. And I think we had probably the largest at that point class of women. I think we were maybe, and Tracy might have corrected me, around 30 or 40% women. And it was a phenomenal experience. I have to say, I was nervous about all the things, right? I had a 1.5-year-old going into this. About 3 months in, we shut down for COVID. And I would say it's one of the most incredible experiences. And I'll tell you that I still have a group chat with some girlfriends who I see every time I come to Chicago, which is a couple times a year. And we frequently talk about how lucky we are that this program brought us together from all different industries, different backgrounds. There were maybe 4 women in our group that had kiddos. And so that was a challenge that we all conquered together by just kind of sharing the frustrations, including the fact that one of our friends' kids was potty training and peed on her homework. Or no, it was her accounting test. And so, these are the things that I think brought us together. It really became a very supportive group. And I think that's what I really enjoyed about it. Male or female, it truly was a supportive group. The challenges we faced, the classes that we struggled with. We had one of our guys who's in banking and is just brilliant, also went to medical school, all the things, right? And he would give us tutoring. He would do tutoring sessions for our corporate finance class and accounting and a lot of those classes that were a bit more challenging and really quant heavy when you're sort of taking a quicker pace of courses. And that was one of the reasons I succeeded, because we all worked together. So whether that was, really bonding together with the other females in our group and really enjoying that and being able to share some of those challenges, but really walking away with some truly lifelong friends that was something I never really expected.
Anyone else have anything to share?
Yeah, I would echo that our cohort also had about 30% women, which was more than I expected as well. The women in our cohort also shared a similar bond. We had our own text group that we would ask questions to one another that were sort of just unique to the women in the group at some points, ranging from just life matters. There were lots of parenting questions in our cohort, all but I think 3 of the women in the cohort were parents, including one single mom to a 2-year-old when we entered, and one mother who had triplets that were teenagers. So lots of moms in our group. One thing that also was really great at Notre Dame was the representation of women on the faculty. I think when I look back, we actually had just shy of 50% of the instructors that we had were female, which just was phenomenal. I did not at all expect to have that, just representation in the classroom, but it really did create an unspoken level of support for those of us who were women.
I would just say I've been a little surprised at the support from the men as well. The women are great. we've got like 11 or 12 of us in our class currently. But I was a little intimidated because I thought, okay, I've got all these men here that are really, high achieving or already high up in their organization. And how are they going to, adapt or react to things maybe that I'm facing as a woman and some of the obstacles that I face. And they've all been so supportive and encouraging. And like the other panelists said, everybody helping each other. And I've actually gained a lot of confidence, even coming back to work and working with other males that are in more higher level, more dominated roles. I believe the men have also been super supportive in this cohort. And I think without that, I wouldn't have succeeded as much as I have so far and after the first year of the degree.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sarah. I was trying to think. I'm like, I don't think I've ever felt like, I guess like marginalized in class. I felt like everybody was extremely supportive. But I do loved how diverse everyone was in their backgrounds. And when I mean diverse is like age groups, the positions they hold. I was able to learn from everyone's insight, and it felt like I was very inspired also by our faculty, right? Like I saw women in positions that I didn't think, I mean, at least for me, I didn't think that was like possible. So it was, for me as a woman, it was very eye-opening and inspiring. And my class was very unique. It was only 27 people because we went during we started in 2020. So, and there was like nine women out of 27. So I think that's about, I don't know, 30, like averaging 30%, right? But I think the school did so great in making sure that ratio was still pretty good. Like I was really surprised, but that's all I have for now.
And I was going to chime in really quickly. I think that, sorry, I'm getting a visitor. I think Professor Byrne, who now runs the program, what I really loved about her is she had that perspective as a woman. She was a professor for us at that point, and she had that perspective of being a mom and a woman in business and international business. And I think that all the women who taught were like that, and I really do think that just provides such a great perspective. And I had a couple challenges where he got sick, and they were like, "I got you. You call me with what you need. We've got you. We'll make sure you're taken care of." And I do feel like that's supportive. Like, we've got you, whether you're male, female, teacher, student, whatever that is, we've got you, and this works together.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing. And kind of building on that, I feel like even whether you have a spouse or children or not, some ways the experience of women is a little bit different just in the managing all of the things that we do. So can you talk next a little bit about how did you balance everything that you are part of with personal life and work responsibilities and community activities, and then adding school to the mix of all of that with all of the things that you have going on. So what did time management and the balance look like while you were in the program?
I think for me, I had to learn to relinquish some control, especially with my daughter. She's my youngest. Really relies on me a lot. And, the first week, the full immersion week would be like the first week, actually, I would be gone away for that length of time. And, I had to trust my husband. I had to trust family members to, jump in and attend things that maybe I couldn't attend. And, I think finding time that works for me was when, my kids were like my daughter was at dance, I would do my homework, or I would try to sneak something in like the last hour of the day at work. You just got to kind of find those little pockets of time, and you have to really keep focused on not only relinquishing some control, but also realizing that you're worth it. You're worth the investment. You're worth the sacrifices that you're making. Really 22 months is not that long. I mean, it's already flown by so much for me. So I think just understanding that I'm worthy of the investment in myself, and being a little selfish with that, but I've got a great partner and I've got a great supportive family that was there to jump in and help when I couldn't be there, or I needed more time for school.
I guess I'll dive in. I think I agree with that. You have to sort of let some things go, and I think that is that is a challenge because those of us who are showing up for this program are probably type A, trying to figure everything out and get everything done, and that's how we operate. We did the same thing. I mean, we just sometimes I had to resign that there is more takeout at my house than there should be, and that's just the way life worked. I also really strive to carve out time that I could study. And that became, sometimes it was Saturday night. Sometimes it was, my husband would take my son out to go do something. And I'd spend 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning, or whatever that was. But truly like carve it out and put on the blinders to everything else that's happening, because it allowed you to focus. Because like you said, it's a quick pace, and 22 months is a little bit longer than 18. So that is, I will say, is probably very helpful. It's gives you more time to absorb the information. But carving that time out and realizing you will get it done. You have your classmates to also rely on. You're going to work in a team setting, which I'll be honest, terrified me in the beginning. But I don't think I would have made it through if it wasn't for the team program. The team at Notre Dame is very methodic about putting together the teams that complement each other. And I do feel like that was actually really well done. And so to me, that helped set me up for success as well, knowing that the lift on a lot of these projects are not going to be just you. Yes, there's certain classes where you're going to have to take the test together and all those things, but the opportunity to work with a team and be able to work together made it all doable. So I would say that realize that you're going to have to ask for help and rely on others, whether that's in your personal life or in a classroom setting. But really be prepared to just carve out some time, and it's doable. You can do it. And we had one of our classmates ran 3 COVID hospital units during COVID, had 3 kids in school, and still passed all of her courses. So it's doable. It's a team effort, and you will succeed.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I would say my journey is a bit different. I was living in Miami at the time, and I was running a healthcare business that I decided to start in 2020. So right just when I was starting school, and I don't know why I thought that was a great idea, but I made it through. But 2 factors that made it work was a supportive team, and very like understanding professors. Traveling every other week to Chicago sometimes will take away from like me being able to catch up with like studying or being able to learn at the speed of everyone else. So it was really like my professors like recognized that and carved out time to be able to say like, hey, do you need additional support with, I don't know, like, forecasting? I don't have a financial background. So, and I really appreciated that. I thought that was like something that I really appreciated from that tight knit community. It taught me the importance of, the strong support of the network and the adaptability in managing both responsibilities. So that was my experience.
Yeah, so similar ideas and themes here. You're not going to be able to do it all. You are going to have to rely on the people in your life. For me, there was a lot of negotiation and change that happened at work. So having operated as CEO during that time, there was a lot of emphasis that I put on developing my team so that they could seamlessly be able to take over when I was, walking out the door yet again to go to class. But really that served as a benefit to everyone. So there's lots of things that don't feel great in the moment sometimes, but ultimately it led to their development too. And they were really appreciative and thankful at the end of it as well, even though sometimes it is a little bit of a pain point in the moment.
Yes, thank you all. I love those responses and the encouragement there for sure. We do have a question in the Q&A about the monthly travel to campus. I know, Giselle, you were just talking about traveling quite a distance, and Amy, you did as well. But even if you're not coming from super far away, it still involves a lot of logistics. So can you talk through just kind of how you manage the logistics of the flights or the rides and the hotels or Airbnb, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, for For the hotel, what I would do, I'd call all the hotels and see which one would give me like a discount for saying like, hey, I'm going to be here almost all year, every other week. Like, what rates do you have? And luckily at the time, during COVID, it was easier to negotiate those rates. But also the campus had specific hotels for a discounted rate that you could stay there. It was right across campus, and this is specifically for the Chicago campus. And then in terms of there was another travel time. I would travel very early or early morning, the night before, or sometimes the day of, but I don't recommend that because there's a flight, the winter time that you might not make it to class on time. And I would leave the same day. So our class was Friday and Saturday, and then I'll leave like Saturday evening back home to Miami. I hope that answers your question.
I'd say I was similar. I would usually come in, depending on if it was a big test or there was a big study session or something. We were Friday and Saturday as well. And so, I mean, we're kind of screwed up because of COVID flights, but typically what I would do is fly in either Wednesday night so I could just get time by myself to study, or Thursday morning, Thursday some point to get ready for class on Friday. Sometimes I would come in early on Thursday so I could have a drink with my classmates and just relax before class started, and you sort of dove into it. Being based in Chicago, we had obviously some weather challenges in the early late winter months, and so there were a couple times where there were about 6 of us that traveled in the beginning that we were like, hey, there's a snowstorm coming in, we have to get out of here, otherwise we're not going to get home till Tuesday, which is what happened to some people. So we would all just load up in the car and be like, okay, we're going to go to O'Hare and pray we can all get out. But ultimately the travel, I think for me, and talking to my classmates who had families at home, we had some people who lived 2 hours outside of Chicago, so they stayed in the hotel, so they didn't have to commute. For me, it was nice because I got a hotel room by myself where I didn't have to worry about someone waking up in the middle of the night and needing something. And so I was able to sort of decompress, hang out with my classmates, make those relationships. And then some people commuted back and forth from the suburbs, and it sort of just depended. But I don't think, to me, that honestly, the travel, I was nervous about it in the beginning, but it didn't end up being this big hiccup that I thought it would be. It actually allowed me sort of to decompress with that commute, coming back and forth, and really focus on my time there when I was there.
Yeah, I'm about an hour and 40-minute drive. At first we're Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I tried driving in Thursday morning, and that was just ridiculous. It's a long day. So I come the night before, like the others have said, and it is nice to kind of just get settled in and kind of shift your mind from home to school. And then we're done at 4:15 on Saturday. I don't know what the time is going to be for the new cohorts after, but by 4:15. So I usually can get home by 6 o'clock in the evening. So I still have that Saturday evening, but I'm usually pretty wiped out by the time that's over with. I do notice that the people that do live close, like in Granger and South Bend and stuff like that, sometimes I think it's a little harder for them because they feel like they have their home commitments still while they're at school. So if anybody lives close enough like that, I think it would be really important to try to make sure that you know that you need to carve out time for yourself with the program versus, run home. I mean, obviously you're going to have to, but I think your experience is a little more, it's deeper if you can spend more time with your cohort and keep your mind set in the school zone versus kind of going back and forth to home and school.
My experiences were similar. I had classes on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I used to try to get to campus on Wednesday in the earlier afternoon. My team used to try to meet to finalize projects, presentations, whatnot on Wednesday in the later part of the day, weather permitting and flights allowing. So we would try to convene, get together, and of course also just do some of the social bonding things that make the work easier, actually. So we would do that on Wednesday, a little bit of studying, a lot of enjoying each other and campus, and then all of the classes and whatnot Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then since I'm in Chicago, I would just drive home. I know that the question also included some bits about expense. For me, I was also able to work with my employer. We considered my time part of professional development. So my hotel expense and my travel expense was considered part of my professional development opportunity in the second half of my time there. I know we have another question maybe that we'll get into expenses a little bit more, but in the second year, I was able to actually have my employer pay for that.
So that leads right into.
And I've been.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say I was fortunate enough my employer pays as well. Because I can tell you game day weekends, especially for football, like this last USC game, one night was like $8.99 just for that night. Also, the hotels can book really quickly. So that's difficult as well on those game weekends. If it's not a game weekend, you're usually pretty good. We actually had a few people in my cohort this year that rented an RV and put it on one of our cohorts. He has land, he has like a farm, and they parked there for the weekend just to kind of save money. So people get pretty creative.
Yeah, there's a group of students in our cohort that got a consistent Airbnb and they got a great rate on that. So I think a group of maybe like 8 of our guys consistently were in an Airbnb. So there's all kinds of ways people bring down costs a little bit.
Yes, awesome. Those are all great ideas. Lots of creativity in, and I think figuring out the uniqueness of what you personally need. I feel like there's always that like group of guys that like relive their undergrad years and it becomes a frat house at the Airbnb. And then there's always those people who are like, I need some space and quiet alone in my hotel room. So determining which of those, where you are on the spectrum of that can help you in making those decisions for sure, and what choices and options you want to consider for lodging. The next question I want to go into kind of builds on some of that what you were talking about with your employer support. So I think both of the Sarahs had really strong employer support. But what were the conversations like with your employer? How did you kind of sell them on the idea in supporting you and have those negotiations and conversations?
Well, I think for me, it was just asking. I mean, really, I think that sometimes can be hard to put yourself out there and say, hey, this is something I want to do, and I would like your support in doing that. So it actually was an easy conversation once I asked. So I met with my boss, who's the senior vice president of underwriting, as well as I met personally with the CEO to be able to just say, hey, this is something that I want to do. And they were 100% supportive of that. They give me the time off that I need for school as well. And they pay for the tuition as well as the hotel, not the transportation though. So I still have to do that. But the CEO went to Notre Dame, so he's a big fan of Notre Dame. So that helps a little bit as well. I just think, the first step is just to ask and start the conversation. And I know a lot of people in my cohort have different arrangements that they've been able to make with their employers. So I think just asking the question and seeing what's available to you is the first great step to, kind of getting to your goal of going to Notre Dame.
So for me, I recognized that my bosses, my board of directors, actually all had MBAs. And so I didn't so much ask as presented in a strategic plan that this was something that would be valuable to our organization, that I should go to school and pursue a degree. I did not know at the time whether I should pursue, as someone who was in not-for-profit and in public education, I didn't know whether or not an MBA or the Master of Not-for-Profit Administration would be the best choice for me. I was actually looking at both at Notre Dame. And so I presented the strategic plan to the board, and I told them I was interested in both. And the board of directors pretty unanimously, including the president of the board, was like, you would be really unwise to pursue anything but an MBA. And so I said, great, okay. So that makes sense to me as well. And so I moved forward with that. Unfortunately, at the time, our organization was not in great financial position. I was just taking over in the moment. And so I knew that asking for financial support was not going to be possible in that particular moment. However, after my first year, I was able to improve the financial position of the organization substantively, and so was able to renegotiate with them at that time that they would be able to support me financially with the travel expenses and a little bit of other tuition support. So that is how I was able to finance much of it, and then also relied on scholarships and things of that nature.
Yeah, I was going to say that there are scholarship opportunities available, and I was offered one for travel. I work for myself, so it was sort of a debate with. I also work with my brother part-time, so it was a debate of, is it just going to be enough? Is there going to be enough me to go around? And so that really came to the big decision. But there was not a lot of obviously negotiating, and then I ended up paying for my school myself. So that going back to the travel option. I got a lot of frequent flyer miles, so that helped in vacations later on down the road when I had a chance to go. So
Anything you want to add, Giselle? I know your situation was unique because it was kind of you running the show.
Yeah, I did get a scholarship, so that was very helpful. And I'm glad that I'm not even sure how I found out about it, but I think there was like emails about it and applied to all of them. And it was like 3, I think, and one of them qualified. So I was very thankful for that. That was a huge help. But no, I did not have an employer at the time to pay for any expenses.
Thank you all for sharing. We have another question in the chat. Was there anything about the program that surprised you or that was different than you anticipated?
I would say for me, I was very intimidated. I thought, for the first time, I was like, do I belong in this program? Should I try a different program? Like, am I in the executive level? And then when, a few weeks after that, I was like, oh yeah, this is not what it is. It's not as intimidating as I thought. Everyone was extremely supportive. And yes, there was tons of people there with more experience, but I never felt any less than them being there. And then I thought that was like great. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I thought, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not, my background was in healthcare, rehabilitation science. So I was like, how in the world am I going to do like financial forecasting and accounting, right? I've never done it before. So once again, the professors were extremely supportive of that. Like the classes were manageable. I mean, I put in a lot of work to be up to speed. But I think the professors were really good with knowing that not the whole class was going to come from a financial background. So I would say those two things.
I guess I will agree with you that I didn't expect the support and the camaraderie that you have. You hear a lot of different programs. Specifically, we talked a lot about Booth, and I've heard a lot about Booth and how competitive it is, and everyone's worried about, are you top of the class? And a lot of those, the shenanigans that go on with trying to be at the top of the class. And for me, I was really surprised at how well, and I think we've all talked about it, everyone worked together. And I do think that Notre Dame breeds a different type of student and a different type of human. They attract a different type of human. And for those of you who may have gone as an undergrad, you've probably seen that. I see that in all my husband's friends that he went as an undergrad to Notre Dame. And so I think I was just completely surprised in that and not understanding that that's truly what type of person Notre Dame attracts. And so for me, that was a huge piece that I didn't expect, and I was surprised by. And I also expected it to be, as we all have encountered, catty women and all of these kinds of things. And I really did not feel that. I didn't feel that vibe. It was truly so supportive. And that was just something I did not expect.
I would echo all that. I mean, the group work, I was really like, that was probably one of the things I was most nervous about. Like, how's this really going to work? But it's been phenomenal. I've had really great people that I've worked with. I was also surprised at, because when I went in, I was like, okay, I'm going to get a 4.0. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get all A's, right? And that really, to me, now a year later, it doesn't matter as much. The grade doesn't, as much as what am I learning? What am I taking away from this? More about quality over quantity type stuff. So the grades aren't really something that you focus on. At least I'm not, like I thought I would in the beginning. Now it's just about making sure I'm learning and really digesting everything that's being handed to me. So that's been a surprising thing for me, kind of my shift in mindset about grades.
Yeah, I think myself from 2 years ago when I was just getting started in the program was, I just realized I was on mute. I think myself from 2 years ago when I was just getting started in the program would say that I was very surprised at just how much work volume there was. I'll just be very authentic there. There was more than I expected, especially in the beginning. I think also in the beginning, I wasn't leveraging the team structure as best I could have, and really making sure that I was learning the material, certainly, but utilizing the team to be able to get the work done. And so that was something that I had to learn along the way. And once I did, it really got into a rhythm and a groove, and things got a little bit more manageable over time. So it does get better.
Sorry, I was trying to find my mute button and couldn't get it unmuted. So um, I wanted, I know we're kind of coming up to close to the hour. So if there's any other like burning questions, feel free again to add them to the chat or the Q&A. But I feel like the people that are watching this are in that, still deciding and trying to figure out where they want to go and if this is the right fit and if you can do it. And I feel like you've already said a lot of great things to kind of encourage. But if you had some further advice, like thinking of yourself however many years ago it was, as you were considering and going through the application process, what do you wish you would have known then, or what mindset do you wish you would have had then to help you feel a little bit more confident or prepared or whatever going into the program and the process?
I have a couple things, I guess I'll say. Number one, I think someone spoke on it already, that I think we all struggle with imposter syndrome and feeling like you do that introduction in the beginning of the class and you're thinking, what the heck am I going to talk about that makes me sound nearly as impressive as these people? And I would say that remember that you bring something to the table. Everyone has a different talent. Everyone has a different skill set. You have value. You add value to your team. You add value to your class. And that may be something that you personally do versus your academic abilities. And that is perfect. I think that was a huge thing that I struggled with, of like, what am I really bringing to the table? And so I would say that, remember, you have value. You deserve to be here and you deserve to work hard and make this happen. I had another thought and now I can't remember what it was. But the other thing is I don't think I expected to come out of this with a whole new set of amazing humans in my world. And because of the way the world shifted when we were in class, we probably had 6 or 7 people change jobs, maybe even more. And really how impactful and how much our group chimed in to really help and step in and say, let me look at your resume, let me forward it out to people. So I do feel like there's a lot of ways that everyone works together, and not just necessarily in the classroom, but overall. And you have all these humans who've done amazing things. And so now you have all these friends and people who are out there, who are your champions.
Yeah, I would say with piggybacking what Amy said, the imposter syndrome was strong. I mean, it was, why would I do this? Why me? I can't go to Notre Dame. It's just, there was all that voice in your head. And as someone who is a perfectionist, it was really, I was so worried about how I was going to juggle it all and if I was worthy of going through the program. And, is it the right time? I think everybody would say there's probably no great time or perfect time. You just kind of have to do it and it will all work out, and not to be afraid to jump in and just go for it. Because it's been something that like I said, I'm investing in myself, something I'm very, very proud of. And as a mom who gives up a lot of her time and self to her family, this is something I'm doing for myself, and I love it. And I was at a meeting just this last week, and someone said something about arbitrage, and I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I would not have known what that was a year ago. So I'm already seeing kind of fruits of this labor, and you just got to go for it.
I see a question here. It says, did you feel the program added value to you personally, even if it would not likely be necessary or direct benefit to improving your professional opportunities? For me, it was. I think going into the program, I was very ambitious and kind of like felt like I always had this like lonely path that I had to do it all myself, right? And I think the school made me reflect, like, why am I doing these things? Like, why am I running a business? Why am I getting an MBA? So it made me feel more like I should be okay with vulnerability. Like, I think the program did really good at the beginning. Like I said, there's a lot of people from the executive level, and there's what was the program you did for a whole week? You had to talk about your vulnerabilities. I can't remember.
EIL.
EIL.
The EIL, yes. I feel like it was a week of the EIL where made me really reflect of like, why am I making the choices, and are my reasons like, sustainable, right? So I do think that there was a lot of growth from that aspect besides just my professional opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would echo that. EIL is amazingly powerful at helping you tap into who are you today as a leader, who do you want to be as a leader, and how are you going to get there. And I think you just mentioned that vulnerability piece. You do it in a way that is pretty vulnerable with your class and your team. And I love that over the course of the 2 years, you revisit those ideas with your team, and you continue to get real with your team about how can I become who I want to be. And I think that that's just an extraordinary piece of the program at Notre Dame that I have not heard any other peers who got an MBA talk about in their own programs. So I think that's really, really unique and really powerful. I also wanted to sort of revisit the big picture question about like, why Notre Dame? For me, I think one thing that is really important as you're making your decision about where you want to go is not just thinking about like, what is the program, what's the content, what is the curriculum, who are the professors, what are the rankings, all of those things, but really considering who are you doing this shoulder to shoulder with, and really thinking about who is in the room. Because those people that will be in the room with you, so the people that Notre Dame is selecting to be your classmates, and the people who are the faculty will become a part of your life and your network. And I think more importantly, maybe your life than your network. But those people are going to carry with you for decades. And so as you're choosing your next place, whether it be Notre Dame or somewhere else, really think about not just, what academic program do I want, but who do I want to be with for the next period of time in my life, which is really forever. Who are the people? And so as you're thinking about that, really just think about, what do I want for myself, and what is the program choosing for me in terms of who the people are going to be?
Yes, I love, thank you for sharing that. I feel like that's such a unique aspect of of Notre Dame is just the people that we bring here. I had a class visit this weekend and somebody was asking about our ranking, and I was like, I'm a terrible admissions representative because I do not know, because to me, it matters more that the fit is right, that you're in an environment and a culture and a people that are the good fit for you. So yes, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I recognize we're close to the end of our time, so I just want to share a couple other things as we wrap up here today. This is our application deadline chart. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I'm kind of looking down the names on the call, and I think a lot of you have, but our next application deadline is actually tomorrow at midnight. So if you are working on your application or ready to apply, you have time. I have many people who have talked to me during the day and they go home and get the application in by that evening. So that is still a possibility. And if you are applying by tomorrow, the decision release date is December 15th. So you'll be able to know before Christmas and have plenty of time to prepare and get all the stars in alignment so that you're ready to join us in August. If tomorrow is a little too soon for you, though, we do have additional application deadline rounds in January and March. The March, I just caution, you'll find out if you're admitted on May 10th, and we meet in Ireland in August. So that is a quick turnaround there. So the sooner the better, just so that it helps you be prepared. Next steps, I always like to mention that I am available and I love to meet with everyone one-on-one to talk about your unique background and the value you bring and the value that you're looking for out of a program to help you determine if this is the right fit for you. I also do resume reviews. So if you're a little bit intimidated, you haven't to put a resume together for admissions to a program, or just haven't put a resume together in a while, any of those things, happy to meet with you one-on-one by Zoom or phone to talk further. So feel free to schedule some time on my calendar to do that. These QR codes, I know it's hard when they're all stacked together, but they do work and lead you to those ugly links that are next to it there. We have a variety of other events, different webinars, panels, and in-person events, including monthly class visits. So you can come and sit in on a class and just get a feel for that environment and culture that we were talking about, and to see if you can envision yourself there and feel like that's a place that would fit for you. And then, of course, the link to the application. So if you're ready to apply, you can jump right onto that. But again, thank you all so much for attending. I hope this was really valuable. I really love just the encouragement and inspiration that all of our panelists shared. So thank you to our panelists. It was really an incredibly meaningful time just for me on this end of things. And I appreciate especially that all of you woke up so early to join us and share so vulnerably and authentically. So thank you all so much.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you. Bye.
Later.